Yes, my friends, the Pittsburgh Steelers are preparing to face the Jets in week 1 of the new season, and we have some important points to share with you. But first, make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you've been a Steelers fan for over 15 years. It's great to see fans of all ages. We'll be bringing you all the updates this season. Now, I want to hear from you. If you could give Mike Tomlin one piece of advice regarding the team, what would you tell him? Write it below. Now, let's get to the topic of the day. Mike Tomlin made it clear during his press conference on Tuesday that he's perfectly comfortable with the wide receiver group the Steelers have heading into 2025. His comment, "It's not a big deal for me or us," when asked about the possibility of adding another wide receiver was direct and revealing. Despite 2 separate visits from Gabe Davis during the offseason, Pittsburgh opted not to sign him, which strongly points to concerns about his medical evaluations. All indications are that Davis failed not just 1, but 2 physicals in Pittsburgh, which led the team to release him. Still, he returned to the Buffalo Bills, showing that, at least from Buffalo's perspective, he's ready to go. But for the Steelers, not worth the risk. So now, the trio of DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin III, and Roman Wilson is set in stone heading into the regular season. That, by itself, is a headline. But here's where the intrigue begins. Calvin Austin was officially listed as WR2 on the depth chart, but will he actually play the second most snaps at the receiver position? Last year, despite clearly being one of the Steelers' best playmakers, Calvin Austin was outsnapped by Van Jefferson by over 100 plays. The reason? Size and blocking. At just around 160 pounds, Calvin doesn't bring the functional strength required for those tight, run-heavy formations where receivers need to block. Van Jefferson, by contrast, had more mass and was more useful in early down sets. That's where Roman Wilson now enters the conversation. Roman was drafted this year with high expectations, and he's already shown during camp and the preseason that he's not just a route runner, he's a physical, willing blocker. And that matters in this system. If the Steelers are going to play classic Steelers football, tough, physical, run-heavy, then Wilson has all the traits to be that true number 2 wide receiver on the field. The question then becomes, is the depth chart telling the truth, or is it just paper? This sets up a fascinating internal battle, one that fans should pay close attention to early in the season. If Roman is outsnapping Calvin by week 3, we'll know the answer. And the real question becomes, will the Steelers continue to label Calvin as WR2 if Roman is the one actually playing more downs? Elsewhere on the depth chart, a small but telling change. Connor Heyward is no longer listed as a tight end. He's now officially designated as a fullback. That might sound minor, but it tells you just how much Pittsburgh plans to use the 3-man tight end rotation of Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, and Darnell Washington. All 3 are listed as starters, signaling heavy usage of 12 and 13 personnel this year. Meanwhile, Connor becomes more of a Swiss Army knife, not a true FB in the traditional mold, but a chess piece who can flex out, line up in motion, or play H-back roles. However, if he's going to succeed in that role, his blocking needs to take a huge leap forward from where it was last season. And his hands, once considered his best asset, were inconsistent last year. Still, he remains a favorite among teammates and even players outside Pittsburgh like Aaron Rodgers, who has publicly praised Heyward's reliability and football IQ. In the backfield, the situation has become more defined. Jaylen Warren is the clear feature back. Kenny Gainwell will operate primarily as the third down option. Caleb Johnson, who also appears as one of the team's top kick returners, starts the season as RB3. When Warren needs a breather, the situation will dictate who steps in, Gainwell on passing downs, Caleb on early downs. But make no mistake, Caleb Johnson's touches will be limited out of the gate, and any significant role will need to be earned through opportunity and performance. Injury-wise, the Steelers are dealing with some early adversity. Nick Herbig is officially listed as questionable for week 1 due to a lingering hamstring issue that he's been battling since the second week of the preseason. He left that game early and hasn't fully returned since. Meanwhile, defensive tackle Derek Harmon is out for week 1 after suffering a knee injury in the preseason finale. He's expected to return somewhere between weeks 2 and 4, but for now, someone will need to step up in his absence. That someone appears to be Y.A. Black, who's been assigned number 94 and had an impressive preseason. Mike Tomlin mentioned that Black, along with Isaiah Loudermilk and Daniel Arkabong, will be part of a rotation to help fill the void. But Black seems to be the one coaches are most excited about. He'll be one to watch in week 1, especially if Cam Heyward isn't out there, and that's where things get even more interesting. Cam Heyward has been practicing in pads, which had many fans and media assuming he was all systems go. But when asked directly on his podcast, not just football, if he would play in week 1, Heyward replied, "We'll see." That is not the answer you want from your defensive captain days before kickoff. The underlying issue? Money. Cam is seeking a raise, and not just a small bump. He wants a contract that reflects all pro-level play, something his current deal doesn't do because it was signed during a time when he was coming off multiple injuries and aging into the later stages of his career. But last year, Cam returned to dominant form, and he wants to be paid accordingly. The good news for Steelers fans, the team has the cap space to get it done. According to Spotrac, Pittsburgh has around $26.9 million in available cap space. A raise in the $8 to $10 million range for Heyward would barely dent their ability to make major moves later this season, particularly at the trade deadline. It's a move that makes sense not just emotionally, but strategically. Keeping Heyward happy and on the field could be the difference between a strong front seven and one that gets gashed by the run, especially against the Jets team in Week 1 that will pound the ball on the ground. Tomlin said during his press conference that he expects Cam to play, but if this contract standoff continues into the weekend, things could change fast. There's speculation that the Steelers may restructure part of Heyward's $12 million roster bonus for 2026 into a signing bonus this season, giving him his raise now without harming future flexibility. If they do that, expect Cam on the field Sunday. But if they don't, or if things break down, it could get messy. So now I ask you, Steelers Nation, should Cam Heyward get his raise this week? Or should the front office hold firm and wait? Let me know what you think in the comments. Let's talk about what this really means for the Steelers defense heading into Week 1. The absence of Derek Harmon is already a significant blow, and if Cam Heyward holds out, that defensive line could suddenly look alarmingly thin against the Jets team that's expected to lean heavily on the run. Remember, Heyward's presence isn't just about leadership or locker room presence. His on-field impact is measurable. The Steelers' run defense splits with and without him last season were night and day. Without Cam, opponents gashed Pittsburgh on the ground. With him, the line held firm. The idea that the Steelers would enter Week 1 without their two top interior linemen, Harmon due to injury and Heyward due to contract, is almost unthinkable. But that's exactly the scenario we're looking at if the front office doesn't act quickly. The team has the cap space. The team has the incentive. And most importantly, the team has the need. This isn't just about rewarding Cam for past performance. It's about preserving the core strength of this defense in a season where expectations are sky high. Adding to the intrigue is how Jack Sawyer fits into the edge rotation with Nick Herbig still nursing that hamstring. Sawyer is not going to be a pass-rushing nightmare in year 1. He's not built like that yet, but he is a legitimate run-stopping presence. That alone could make him useful in early downs, giving guys like TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith some relief. That's the kind of rotational depth you can live with. But when you're talking about replacing someone like Heyward, you need more than a role player. You need an anchor, and that's what Cam is. So again, the big question isn't just if Heyward will play, it's what message the organization sends to the rest of the locker room if they don't get this deal done. Cam is the tone setter. He's the leader. You want guys like that to feel valued, not just with words, but with real compensation, especially when your locker room is full of younger talent that's watching how veterans are treated. What happens with Cam could set the tone for future negotiations with players like George Pickens or Joey Porter Jr. down the line. And now, back to the offense for a second. Calvin Austin III is going to be under a microscope early. Being listed as WR2 is one thing. Earning WR2 snaps is another. And his track record from last season, as dynamic as it was in flashes, doesn't guarantee him a larger workload this year, especially when Roman Wilson checks more boxes physically. If Roman starts out snapping Calvin by week 2 or 3, that WR2 designation will start to look more symbolic than practical. This is the kind of situation where fan sentiment can swing quickly if the offense sputters early and one of the more promising young receivers isn't getting consistent reps. And how about the running back rotation? Jaylen Warren being the clear lead back is a major development. He earned it, no doubt. But now the question becomes, can he hold up over a full season with starter-level touches? That's not something he's been asked to do in the NFL yet. Kenny Gainwell offers a nice change of pace, especially in third-down situations, and he's shown in Philly that he can be effective in short bursts. Caleb Johnson, meanwhile, feels like the wild card. If he pops on special teams and capitalizes on limited carries, he could force his way into a bigger role. But starting out, his usage is going to be minimal. Special teams could also be something to watch. Caleb Johnson and Kenny Gainwell are listed as the primary kick returners, and while neither has game-breaking return history in the NFL, both have the speed and shiftiness to be dangerous. If one of them can break a couple early in the season, that could tilt field position battles in Pittsburgh's favor, something that's been missing from this team for a while. And finally, don't overlook the tight end rotation. Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, and Darnell Washington all listed as starters? That tells you what the offensive identity is going to be. This isn't going to be a team throwing it 45 times a game out of 4 WR sets. This is going to be a grind you down, play action, ball control offense with big bodies on the field constantly. The question is whether this personnel-heavy approach can stay effective when trailing, because if the Steelers fall behind early, this lineup becomes less ideal for catch-up football. That's something to keep in mind as we watch how this offense performs out of the gate. So if you're a Steelers fan, you've got a lot to watch for heading into Week 1. The Cam Heyward situation could shift the balance of the defensive front. Calvin Austin's role versus Roman Wilson's could redefine the wide receiver room, and the deployment of that loaded tight end group will give us the clearest window yet into what Arthur Smith's offense will look like with a fresh start in Pittsburgh. If you've made it this far, here's your call to action. Hit that subscribe button, like this video, and check out the next one on your screen right now for even more exclusive Steelers coverage. All the latest updates right here, before anywhere else. Let's get it, Steelers Nation.